So let's move on. So what is a resume for those of you who may be, freshly creating a resume or aren't too familiar with what the content is or what areas you should cover? It's essentially a document, usually one page to maybe three max, depending on how many years of experience you have. It highlights your experience, skills, and your accomplishments. So these areas can cover your education or professional training, any work experience that you have, special awards, maybe honors. It can also cover volunteer work, extracurriculars. So it is customizable, but there are some generalized areas, and those include education, work experience, your contact information, and the skills section. Um, all in all, your resume may be the most important tool of your job search. A lot of jobs will require a resume to be submitted, especially in this day and age when a lot of applications are virtual or digital. Some applications just ask the applicant to email their cover letter and resume. Sometimes you're uploading it to a job application. So it really does vary. Not all jobs will require a resume, but a lot do. So it's important to have one handy. It serves as a marketing tool and it also serves as a first impression. So when you're sending over your resume, it's the first impression that they're really getting of you. So it's important to make sure that it's presentable, it's neat, it's organized. You want to avoid grammatical errors or spelling mistakes. You want to make a good impression. And lastly, it's a way to stand out from other applicants. This is really going to highlight your skill sets. And we'll talk about what those areas and what those areas are and how you can lay that out on the page. Okay. Great. So before we delve into an example of a resume and see the layout, I did want to again reiterate that it is a first impression of you. So you want to make sure your resume is brief and easy to read, that it's customized or tailored for a specific position, career field, employer, or opportunity, and that it's accurate and error-free. What this communicates about you is it shows that you're neat and organized, you're qualified, and you're detail oriented. I do see we have a question. Please go ahead and share.
Hi, really dumb question, but we don't have to have experience in climate change for us to be able to qualify for this, right?
Yeah, so it's actually a great question. So, no, you do not need to have any prior climate experience or environmental justice, sustainability experience. What we do advise for those of you who are generally interested is tell us why you're interested. What do you know about environmental justice and sustainable practices? What do you hope to learn more about, or are you just generally curious? So really, you don't have to, be the president of the environmental club or anything like that. Just tell us why you're interested, what drew you into this opportunity, and what are you hoping to get out of it. It also helps to let us know a little bit more about you, your background, what is your personal connection, right? Maybe you've done a little bit of this work on a smaller scale. Maybe you've done recycling before. Maybe you participated in a beach cleanup one time. So it doesn't have to be that you've, spent a lot of time in particular efforts specifically related to sustainability. Just let us know that you want to learn more, that you want to grow, and you're curious to know about how this can tie into your career or your major. So that's a great question. Okay. So on average, fun fact, on average, an employer spends about 6 seconds looking at a resume. So this is that key period of time where they're getting that first impression of you. And a lot of times, especially for large scale companies or organizations, they're using an applicant tracking system. This system is essentially a filter that cross compares your resume with a list of skills and qualifications that they're looking for. And if so, if your resume does not have the key skills that they're looking for, it automatically filters you out. And so today we'll talk about strategies to best work around these applicant tracking systems. For the purposes of the Every Career is a Climate Career internship program, we're not necessarily using an applicant tracking system, but we are comparing the skill sets that you have and that you're highlighting about yourself versus the skill sets that the employers are looking for. So if you are interested in a specific employer or company, be sure to do some research on them. Figure out what is their key audience, what is their mission and their values, right? And that way you can tailor your application a little bit more. Right now, we have not released the list of employers just yet, so it's okay to have a more generalized resume. We'll talk about some keywords that you can mention, and other than that, we would recommend highlighting your transferable skills. So, again, we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like and how it can fit into your resume. Transferable skills essentially mean any skills that you can take from one job to a different job. This can be leadership skills, organizational skills, project management, communication. So basically, these skills are transferable. You can take them from one place to another. You'll find that you actually have a lot of transferable skills from your academic career. So, from your classes, different classroom environments, you can transfer those to the world of work. It's just a matter of how you're putting that down on paper. Okay. And again, you're doing a great job of asking questions. Please feel free to unmute yourself or use the chat box to ask any questions that you may have. What we're looking at here on the screen is a sample of a resume. So it just covers the very basic components of a resume. There are additional areas that you can include. Like I mentioned before, you can include volunteer work or extracurricular activities. If you have military experience, you can include that too. You can include a summary or objective for your resume. So again, we're just covering the basics on this one page here that we have as a sample, and we'll walk through it throughout this workshop. So there's two areas we want you to focus on when it comes to a resume. It's the content. So what is the actual information or what are the details that you're including? And the format. How are you visually putting that down on the page? Is it easy to read? Is it organized? Is it easy to find the information that I'm looking for? So if I want to know, where's your phone number? I can find that very easily. If I want to know your key skills, I can find that very easily. So again, you want to make it as easy as possible for the employer to navigate the page and find the information they're most interested in. So let's begin with the first component, and that would be the resume header or the contact information. So we see here at the top, your name is the biggest text size, and it is bolded, so we know who we are talking about, who are we reviewing, and so your name can be bold and centered. You should have your font size be no more than 2 to 4 font sizes larger than the rest of the text. So if you have like a 12-point font, you could keep it to 14, maybe 16, but at a certain point, it does become a little too large, right? So I have seen folks write their name, but it's taking about a quarter of the page, and that can be very overwhelming, right? So you want to make use of all the space you have on the page. Don't have your name be too large where it's taking up too much space on the page. Here we see it says West Wildcat, and in slightly smaller text, we see the location of where they're at. So they're located in Culver City, California. We see their zip code and their phone number. On the next line, we see their email address and their professional social networking social media, so their LinkedIn page. What you'll notice here is that we don't have the full address anymore. So we don't have their exact street and building or apartment number. We just get straight to the point and we put in the city, the state, and the zip code. Really, employers just want to know, are you local? Are you nearby? Would you need to, for example, travel from another state? So this just lets them know that you're in the area. Okay, do see someone in the waiting room and they've just been admitted. Great. So again, basic information to include in your resume header is your name, your general address, so just your city, state, and zip code, the best phone number to reach you, your professional email address, and if you have it, a social media such as LinkedIn. So not your personal Instagram, but a tailored professional site where you're also talking about your skills. If you don't have a LinkedIn, that's okay. Just leave it out and have your professional email set up. Your email could be an Outlook account, it could be Gmail, it could be your school email if you would like to use that. Just make sure that when you're about to graduate, that you switch the email out for a professional one that's a personal email. Otherwise, if you lose access to your student account, then you might not be able to be contacted there anymore. So just keep that in mind for when you're graduating. Any questions about the resume header or the contact information here? Okay, not hearing any. And if something comes up, just feel free to ask. Okay, another area that is optional but often recommended is the summary or objective area. There is a difference and they're often used interchangeably, but there is a small key difference. So, a summary basically identifies the kind of position you are looking for, and it focuses on what skills or qualifications you already have. The objective focuses on your career goals and the skills you want to work on. Key difference here summarized is the summary tells me what you bring to the table, what are the skill sets that you're offering to this, to bring to this opportunity. And the objectives tells me what skills do you still want to work on, right? You're still working on them, you're still developing, you want to grow in this area. So let's read these two differences here. This is for maybe a student who is studying child development. So we see here the summary says an early childhood teacher with 5 years of experience specializing in teaching, childcare, lesson planning, and child development. Adept at creating and developing innovative curriculums and activities to foster personal and emotional growth in children. It seems like a lot of information, but it's actually just two sentences. And so your summary should not be a whole long paragraph on your page. I would say maybe two, 3 lines of text max. And you want to keep it short and sweet. So you notice here, it doesn't say, I am an early childhood teacher. It jumps in straight to the point. You actually don't use the word I anywhere on your actual resume. So these aren't full sentences. They're actually just starting with the action or the description. And again, we'll talk about what that looks like for the resume bullet points. Jumping into the objective, it says, recent graduate student excited to create and develop innovative curriculums and activities to foster personal and emotional growth in children. Again, it's straight to the point. It doesn't start with I am a recent graduate. It just jumps into the description, recent graduate student. So just keep that in mind for your summary and objective. It's up to you which route you want to go to. A summary is more so recommended for someone who has a couple of years of experience already, maybe 1 to 2 in a specific area. Otherwise, an objective might be more suitable. Up to you. You can definitely meet with the Career Center or some of the dedicated climate interns to help you with organizing this on your resume. Okay, the next portion is education and training, and this will look very different across, different backgrounds of education. This one is a very baseline sample. And so if you've attended multiple community colleges, or let's say you already have a bachelor's degree and now you're coming back to community college to have additional training in another area, it's okay to list both. In this sample, we just have West LA College. In the education section, you want to include the schools or universities you've attended, the course of study or the degree that you're working towards, and any kind of official certifications or training programs that you're a part of, including any honors and awards if you've received them. So looking at the sample here, we see in bold the full name of the college. So you'll notice here it doesn't say WLAC, it says the full name of the campus, West Los Angeles College, then the city or the location, Culver City, California. Underneath that, we see the degree that the student is working towards. So it says Associate of Arts for Transfer, Communication Studies, along with their GPA and the anticipated graduation date. So it's okay to list the date that you expect to graduate. Underneath that, we also have relevant courses. This is very, very important, especially when you're tailoring your resume to a job or internship or volunteer opportunity in your field. So, judging by the degree, so we see Associate of Arts for Transfer Communication Studies, it's a safe bet that this student is interested in communication studies and plans on applying to jobs or internships related to that area. So if you look underneath, it says relevant courses. It can also say relevant coursework. So here's where you list classes that are relevant to the job you're applying for or relevant to your career field or major. So they listed some of the classes that they took already, and these are also classes that they've passed. So they took intercultural communication, small group communication, general psychology, right? So these courses showcase that they have relevant training already in this field. If you're a biology student, for example, it would be relevant to include any classes that have labs. So maybe you took a biology or chemistry class with lab. That would be a notable thing to put in your relevant courses. It's not required that you list your classes, but it is something I recommend to folks who don't have a lot of work experience generally, or don't have a lot of work experience related to their major just yet. So for a lot of folks, it could make the difference when they're applying to an internship to say, hey, I haven't been paid as a lab technician before, or I haven't officially worked in a lab before, but I am familiar with the tools and safety protocols of a lab. And you can describe that you've taken these different classes. So it still works in your favor because they understand that you have this training in an academic context. Any questions so far? Okay. Now moving on to professional experience. So this is the next part of your resume. This is where we really actually start to talk about your work history, or you can also include any volunteer work or extracurriculars. Some folks choose to blend these under the same portion of their resume, and some folks prefer to separate it. Really, it's up to your own style and how you see fit and how it all fits onto the page. So, when you are talking about your professional experience, it's important to start each bullet point with an action verb, and we'll show you some samples momentarily. You want to show a balance in skill sets. And remember, I did speak about transferable skills. So, wherever you can highlight that you have great communication skills or leadership or planning and organizational skills, that all works in your favor. You also want to list the skills the employer is most interested in first. So take a look at the job description, see what is the most important skills that you have that they're looking for. You want to prioritize those on your resume. So, what do we mean by action verbs? So, essentially, it's important for you to get creative with the ways that you're describing the experience that you have and the work that you've done in the past. So, instead of your bullet points saying worked with, worked with, worked with, tell us the different ways that you are working and engaging with people. Did you lead a team? Did you create a new process in your job? Did you mentor someone? Did you train someone? Right? What are the different ways that you were involved at work or your volunteer site? So, for example, if we look at these different categories, there's different ways of saying that you improved something, or different ways of communicating that you led a project, that you created something. Maybe you managed a team or led a team, or maybe you did research. There's different ways. So, just looking at the list for managed a team, it says recruited, shaped, guided, directed, supervised, mentored, right? So you want to get creative about the verb choice that you're using so that it doesn't get boring for the reader or repetitive for the reader. The more you keep a different variety of action verbs, the more interesting it is to read your resume. This is another example to really drive that point home. For leadership, there's different ways to communicate leadership: motivate, advocate, propel, operate. For communication, maybe you were illustrating, maybe you were promoting, maybe you were writing or editing. For being detail oriented, maybe you were preparing or organizing. For time management, maybe you were prioritizing, streamlining. For problem solving, maybe you can say analyzed, evaluated. For management, you can say mentored, trained. For research, you can say quantify, survey, assess, explore. For any major accomplishments, you can say succeed, outperformed, demonstrated, right? Again, really using a diverse set of verbs. So now let's look at the bullet point formula. I have received in the past resumes from students where they were talking about their work experience, but it was just one long paragraph. Again, we want to make it easy for the employer to read through your resume and really find the information that they're looking for. It's basically taking out any kind of clutter or filler words so that we get straight to the point. So this is a simple formula that we have for organizing your bullet points for each job or each volunteer opportunity you want to talk about. So this is action verb plus a specific task plus a measurable result, the purpose of that task, or the impact of that task. So let's look at two samples. The first sample says, assisted customers with product selection to provide a positive shopping experience and increase sales. So this could be someone who was working in retail, maybe they were working at a Target or Macy's, and part of their job, when customers approach you, they might ask you about which product is better or where product is located, right? So every time you provide that excellent customer service, every time you help a customer out, you're helping increase sales because you're helping that person make a decision and walk away with a new product, right? Or walk away with what they were looking for. So this is how we organize that bullet point. The action verb is assisted. The task is they're assisting customers with product selection. So choosing a product is that task. And why, or what was the impact, right? To provide a positive shopping experience for the customer and then ultimately increase the sales. And of course, it's going to matter to any business. This also communicates several skills. It shows that you know how to work with customers, and it shows that you understand the importance of being able to, keep the business running, make the sales more profitable. So it kind of shows that you're a well-rounded worker. For the next bullet point, the action verb is in pink, collaborated. In blue, we have to post weekly content, and the measurable result, increase our following. So let's read that all together. Collaborated with social media team to post weekly content, increasing our following by 10%. So we can assume this person was probably working in some kind of outreach or social media management and helped increase their overall following, which of course increases their engagement. One thing to note here, when it comes to your verbs, you want to be very careful about putting them in present tense or past tense. So present tense means assist, past tense means assisted, right? So if it was a past job, you want to put it in past tense. If it's a present job you're currently working, you want to put that in present tense. So just be mindful of that. And here is a sample view of professional experience that I just talked about. This is the same section from the first sample that we saw, the full page resume sample that we're looking at the beginning of the presentation. This is just a zoomed in screenshot of that. So again, we're still going over the student who's a communication student at West LA College. Let's look at their experience. What you'll notice here is that the most recent experience is at the top, and we see they're working this job from 2024 to the present. Underneath that, we had a job that they did previously from August 2022 to December 2023. So this is called reverse chronological order. You want to have the oldest content towards the bottom and then the most recent job you've worked towards the top. And so you just line them up in that reverse order. We'll notice here as well, we see very easily we can find their job title. So they were a social media intern and they were a front end associate cashier. We very readily see where they were working. The first one is West LA Marketing Group at Los Angeles, California, and Frozen Yogurt Delights in Los Angeles, California as well. After that, we see their bullet points of the specific accomplishments or tasks they were doing, followed by a variety of different action verbs. So for the first three bullet points under social media intern, we see collaborate, conduct, create, and it's present tense because they're presently working this position. The next one was in the past. It says processed, assisted, provided, supported. As you can see here, it's not written as a paragraph. These are bullet points that get straight to the point and start with an action verb. We'll see here it says collaborate with social media and marketing team to develop social media strategies that align with client's brand and business objectives, or conduct weekly analytic reports to review team objectives with social media manager. The last one says create and curate content for 3 digital channels, including copywriting, photography, and video. One thing that's important to note in your professional experience, aka any jobs you've worked, volunteer work, extracurriculars, etc., it's important to quantify your impact. So wherever you can include numbers or measurable outcomes, that is going to definitely enhance your resume. So let's look at this next one. Next one for the first bullet point, it says process payments in a friendly and professional manner for 70 plus customers per day. So we know every day this person comes into work and they clock in, they're helping on average 70 customers. If they just said welcomed customers and took their payments, that's not as impressive as saying, okay, I process their payments in a friendly and professional manner, meaning you have customer service skills, you know how to engage the clients for 70 plus customers. This quantifies, gives me a number of how many folks they were working with per day on a daily basis. So if they worked 4 days a week, it's 70 times 4. So for the next bullet point, assisted in training, coaching, and development of 3 newly hired team members. So if you've ever worked a position where you were training someone else or had to train a new employee, that's an impressive feature. This means that you were you were entrusted by the supervisor or the managing team to train someone. That means you know your job well enough to be able to teach someone else how to do it as well. So if you've ever had something like that where you were training a new hire, that's something that you should note in your resume. And here we see that it was quantified as 3 newly hired folks. For the next one, they're very more generalized to customer service, and some of the more general tasks supported with inventory check and ingredient preparation as needed. So, what we put at the top was the most important, most impressive tasks. And then towards the bottom, it might be just more everyday tasks that weren't as time intensive, but still maybe they're worthwhile noting if it communicates a transferable skill. Again, a transferable skill is any skill you can take from one job to another job. Communication, organization, leadership, teamwork, collaboration, those kinds of skills. And on the note of skills, we're now talking about the skills section in a resume. So there's different ways to categorize your skills. This is a basic way of doing that. You can distinguish between computer skills, technical or hard skills, and soft skills. Computer skills essentially refer to any kind of software that you know how to use, or networking hardware skills related to computer networks, or any kind of computer programming. So if you know any coding languages, that would be helpful to know too. Technical hard skills refer to specific machinery that you can operate. So maybe that could look like driving a forklift or operating a cash register. So different kinds of tools and machinery. Also, processes that you can complete or perform, and any languages that you know how to speak. So, if you're multilingual or bilingual, it's important to note that on your resume, and as well as the level of fluency that you have. So, how fluent are you? The soft skills refer to the interpersonal skills that you have. So, any kind of skills that involve working with other people or engaging other people. This includes communication, organization, maybe problem solving or critical thinking. Again, working with people skills.
Mari,
Yes.
I just wanted to add something to this that for the students to consider. If your language skill, let's say you speak Spanish and or you're fluent in Spanish. If you have if you are fluent to the level where you are comfortable reading and writing in addition to speaking, that is something that is probably worth noting in your resume. Instead of just saying English and Spanish, you could put, English, comma, Spanish, and then in parentheses, read, write, or speak, read, write, just so they know, because there are some companies that will really value that might need your ability to read or write in another language.
Great. Yes, Felicia, that's a very important note. Yeah, so also saying in addition to your fluency, is that just spoken or is that written, right? Where does that fluency lie? Because some folks can actually speak a lot more fluently in Spanish than they can read or write. So it's also important to note that too. Okay, for the group share out, if you can just kind of share out what skills you think are helpful to put on your specific resume, that would be great. Just a time to kind of brainstorm. I know some of you already have a resume, but things that you think might be beneficial for other people to include in their skills section so they don't miss out either. Okay, and so for those of you who are still thinking to self, feel free to put that in the chat if any new ideas come up. We're going to go ahead and look at some samples. Okay, so these are two samples of how your skills section can be organized. Of course, there's a variety of different ways. These are just two basic samples that you can consider for organizing your skills or qualifications area. So some folks will label it qualification of skills. Some folks will label it skills and technology. Some people will simply put skills. So it really just depends on your personal preference and what you think looks more appealing and presentable on your resume. This is how I've advised some students, especially for those who are beginning their resumes, how to organize their skills. So, at the top here in the skills and technology, we see their interpersonal skills listed as dependable, adaptable, strong time management. For language, it says Spanish, proficient, spoken and written. Computer, they know Adobe Photoshop, Canva, Microsoft Excel, Google Suite, Zoom, and point of sale software, essentially cash registers with a little bit of um, a digital screen attached to it. Applied knowledge includes copywriting, social media management, and graphic design. Applied knowledge is a great subcategory that I like to use in the skills section. It's basically a way of sneaking in any kind of additional information that of things that you know how to do, but maybe didn't make it on your elsewhere on your resume. So if there are certain skills that you have that you still want to highlight, but you couldn't really find room to place them in your resume elsewhere, this is a good way of letting them know, hey, I know how to do these other things. They just weren't part of my primary roles, right? So this person put copywriting, social media management, and graphic design. For this next skill section, they organize it a little bit differently. It says computer, languages, certificates, and interpersonal knowledge. Before I delve into that, I do see someone posted in the chat. Okay, so skills that folks from this call have included are time management, multitasking, problem solving, and conflict resolution. Those are great ones, especially conflict resolution. Confidentiality and discretion, those are great. So, confidentiality refers to the fact that you're able to essentially practice keeping people's information private, especially if you're working with sensitive information or you're working with clients and you have access to their info. You know how to maintain their information private. So that's also a really good skill to include. Great list there. So going back to this sample here, this is the second image in the screenshot. We see they have their computer skills listed first. Maybe this is a computer science major person, right? Or maybe this is someone who is more aligned with jobs that involve a lot of computer usage. If they were a computer science major, they might want to include languages like C++, Python, Java, whatever is relevant to the things that they're learning. Here we see languages fluent in English and Italian, certificates, CPR certified, mental health first aid, teaching certification. Interpersonal knowledge just refers to the skills that they have working with people. So interpersonal means working with other people. They put creative team player. Right, so again, you can stylize it however you see fit, however you think showcases your skill sets best. I would recommend, again, connecting with the Career Center and or your Climate Center intern to advise you on how to best organize this. Now moving on to tailoring your resume. You might have heard this before. What does it mean to tailor your resume? Tailoring your resume essentially refers to customizing your resume for the specific job or internship that you're applying for. And this is definitely advised if you already have the job description in advance, but you can also have your resume tailored to a specific career field or industry. Maybe you are a student interested in child development and you haven't quite applied to any jobs yet, or you haven't started your internship hours, for example, you can generalize your resume to that field, even if you don't have a specific job that you're applying for just yet. So you can customize it and tailor it in different ways. If you do have the job description, then it's important to scan that job description to look out for the hard and soft skills that align with your experience. So it's helpful to look at the job description, read it in full, identify those skill sets, and cross compare with your own experience. If there are skills on that job description that you have and you haven't put them on your resume, then it would be a good time to put them on your resume before actually applying to that job. And we'll go ahead and look at a sample on the next slide. Other things to include would be software, customer service skills, interpersonal skills related to that job. It's important to read that job description thoroughly to know what are the necessary skills, what are the desired qualifications, what are the requirements for education and work experience, what are their key values and job duties. It's also helpful to go to their website. So if you know the company or the organization and you see their website link available, or you do some research and you see their website, it's good to explore, and that will also help inform how to tailor your resume and or your cover letter. And one thing that I definitely want to make note of is be honest, only include experience that you actually have. So it may just be that you just need to reword your experience so that it showcases a little bit more your strengths and qualifications. But again, avoid falsifying any information on your resume. In terms of climate careers and the climate summer internship, keywords and skills to consider for your resume and green careers at large would be, again, those transferable skills, so leadership, collaboration. But if you have any experience with research, environmental justice, or environmental policy, any specific computer skills, have you done outreach before? Have you, if you worked any other jobs on campus as a student worker, right, where you were engaging with different departments, engaging with faculty, engaging with other staff or other folks on campus, let us know about that. If you have experience with community engagement, communication skills, social justice or sustainability efforts, maybe you have some project management skills of your own, data entry and data analysis, those are all very great skills that you could bring to an internship like this. Now, don't be alarmed if you have a great set of skills that aren't listed here. These are just some ideas to get you started. Again, I definitely advise you to book a one-on-one appointment to tailor your resume even more. So looking at a business student description, and I know we're kind of closing in on an hour almost, so I want to make sure that we read through this description as a sample. So this is a sample for a business student. They're interested in this internship program. They read through the description and they really, really like this opportunity. So they're going to go ahead and tailor their resume. So reading through this, let's read it together very quickly. 123 Construction Consulting is offering a business development intern opportunity. This 12-week internship program in this 12-week internship program, the intern will join our team at the corporate headquarters and be prepared with a mentor to develop real-world business skills. We're looking for an enthusiastic, problem-solving, and motivated individual. The responsibilities include assisting the business development team with identifying new projects within the Southern California region, assist in database management and reporting metrics using Excel, working independently and collaboratively with the corporate team on projects to drive continuous improvement, and some of the preferred qualifications. So what do they expect or hope that the person who's applying, what skills do they already have? So they're looking for someone with relevant work or internship experience in human resources or other professional setting through the internships, externships, co-ops, summer positions, school jobs, etc. They're also looking for someone who has relevant human resources coursework or business coursework. They're also looking for someone who maybe has experience using Microsoft Office Suite. So that can cover anything like Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, and hopefully someone with proficiency in Adobe Suite, including InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop. This job will pay $24 an hour. It's part-time and it's 25 hours a week. So just looking at this job description, what are some of the key skills that you can identify here? So go ahead and put them in the chat or unmute yourself. If you were a business student reading this internship position, you like the pay, you like the hours, you like the work they'll be doing, what skills do you think would be relevant to include in their resume? And we'll give folks about a couple of seconds to see if any specific words pop out to you. So again, you can think about soft skills, computer skills, hard technical skills, overall transferable skills. Okay, so I see in the chat data management, that's definitely a big one. What else do we see? Any kind of specific programs that might be helpful? Okay, someone said computer software skills, great. We see experience using Microsoft Office for sure. Great, okay. So I'll move on to the next slide. Of course, there are a variety of different skills. These are some that popped out. There are definitely way more. And so these are just some that popped out to me. But when you are reading through a job description, right, it's helpful if you were to download a copy of it and highlight on your computer, or you have access to a printer, print it out and physically highlight it if that's your kind of your way of engaging with, print materials. But what pops out to me is problem solving, Excel, database management, relevant work or internship experience overall. Business classes. Remember, I mentioned on your education section, you can actually list relevant classes. And so this business student should put their business classes on their resume. And of course, if they know how to use Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, and these other programs that they mentioned, that's just going to work in their favor and make them look like an even stronger candidate. So great job at highlighting those. but this is how you can start working on tailoring your resume. So these buzzwords that pop out, we should see them on this business student's resume. Again, I mentioned the applicant tracking system. The applicant tracking system takes the job description and takes your resume and cross compares and sees how many of these words are appearing and are similar in your resume, right? So it's looking to find these keywords. Perfect. Okay, so let's move on to the finished product, and then we'll talk about how to use Symplicity to build out your resume. If you already have your own resume and your own template, that's okay. We can definitely book an appointment to work with you on the format that you already have. But if you are starting from scratch, Symplicity is a great place to start. So let's talk about the finished product before moving on to Symplicity. This again is a screenshot of the sample that we just looked at. And so we do see the choice of paper, ink, and delivery. So if you're printing it out, make sure you have a plain computer paper. So avoid printing on color paper like pink or blue or pale pink, just regular neutral computer paper. Use black ink. And so you want to avoid any kind of colored text on your paper and your page, because if you have like yellow, for example, or orange on there, and let's say the hiring manager is printing on their side, it might print a little funky, or it might miss a couple of words, and maybe it's too light on their printer and it won't pick up lighter colors. So just keep in mind standard black and white. Avoid folding a resume, especially if you're bringing in a copy to your interview, for example. You don't want to crinkle or fold your resume in any way. So just make sure if it fits on one page, great. If you have to transfer it to 2 pages, make sure it's 2 full pages, so not a page and then just 2 lines of text on the next page. Make sure it's 2 full pages if you really need that second page. For file formats, we recommend either Microsoft Word or PDF. I have a personal preference for PDF because if you send a Microsoft Word file, sometimes someone has a different version of Microsoft Word and it can actually jumble up and shift the way that you've laid out the page. So sometimes there's an extra indent or an extra bullet point when you send a Microsoft Word file. Keeping it as a PDF is free, so you can save as a PDF and email it as a PDF document, and it'll lock in all of the formatting work that you did. So it won't shift anything to the right, or it won't shift things a couple of lines down. It'll lock in the formatting exactly the way you wanted it to be, so it's as presentable as you designed it. So I would recommend a PDF, saving things as a PDF once you're done editing. Great. Any questions so far before we move on to Symplicity? I kind of want to show you where to find the resume builder on Symplicity and how to navigate that. So for those of you who were present at the orientation yesterday, we did set up your Symplicity accounts. If you are a new student and you just applied to the college and you quite don't have your student ID just yet, you might not have created your Symplicity account. When you do get your student ID that starts with either 900 or 88, please let the Climate Center know so that we can help you create your application, help you register onto Symplicity. We have a question here.
Yeah, quick question. So on my resume, I only have like the last 10 years experience for the last 10 years. Anything prior to that, I don't, because it's not really relevant. So because they say not to make your resume like 2 to 3 pages long, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you'd like, for someone who's in your position where you may have a little bit more years of experience, especially if you have more than 10, I would recommend a summary, right? And summarize like what are the areas you have experience in. Or you can add that line in your skill section for applied knowledge and talk a little bit generally about the areas that you do have those additional experience in. So if they're not as relevant or not as fresh or up to date, it's okay to talk about the experience you do have. So maybe in those years prior to the last 10 years, you were working with community engagement or project management, then it's okay to squeeze in those key skill words in your skills section. That way you don't lose like being able to promote that experience that you've had.
That's a really good lead into my question, which is actually a question for Wendy, Eric, and Anita. Can you guys let us know so Eric, I know you said you do have a resume. Wendy, sounds like you also have a resume. Anita, do you have a resume currently? Maybe she's not there. Anita, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, now we can hear you.
Yes.
Do you have a current resume?
I do have one because I think the last one that I used for social media for the last program that you guys had the same. So, but I would like to switch roles and just update it to something new.
Okay, my question before we get into the simplicity, so of Wendy, Eric, and Anita, how many of you have met with a career advisor in at West LA College or in another career center recently to go over your resume?
I
I've had one not too long ago. It was like a month ago, a couple months ago. Yeah, I've
Okay,
had mine reviewed before.
okay. And Wendy, and Anita, how about you guys? Have you met recently with a career advisor to go to review your resume?
No, I have not.
Okay, all
Should
right.
we
I
do
just
that
wanted to get a
first?
sense of kind of where we are in terms of, leading up to the next steps. Okay, thank you.
Should we do that first, or is it okay to use Symplicity?
What was the question?
Um,
No, should we meet with a career advisor first?
You don't need to meet with a career advisor first. Prior to working on your resume, or I'm sorry, maybe I'm misunderstanding the question.
prior to creating their resume in Simplicity, is it better to work with a career advisor before putting it in
Oh,
Simplicity?
you don't need to, especially having attended this workshop. Fill out as much as you can. That's actually what's preferred is you fill out in your own words as much as you can, and
Yeah,
then a career advisor can help you actually tailor it from there or kind of refine it a little bit more from there. So it's actually more helpful when you come in with some content already filled out so that we know how to work with you. If you're starting from scratch, you'll actually end up needing more than one appointment session.
right.
If you bring something in already, then we can definitely work through it a lot faster, especially if you work on it and then you book the appointment and prior to your appointment, you send the person a copy of it. That way they can look at it even prior to your appointment and you can just jump right into getting that feedback. That's actually a lot more helpful. But if you feel like I actually would want someone to walk with me through it and kind of start from scratch, that's totally okay too. It just might take a little bit longer to get that process done.
Mhm.
Great. Okay, great questions. So Simplicity has a resume builder built in. If you haven't created your Simplicity account just yet, we can stay on afterward to help you register for Simplicity. But other than that, let's just become familiarized with where to find the resume builder. So once you log into your Simplicity platform, this is generally what your homepage dashboard looks like. And you'll see here in one of the tile options, it says add a resume. So after logging in, this is a closer look. You'll see the add a resume tile. You'll just click on there. It gives you the option to upload a copy of your own resume and also gives the option to start building one. If you do upload a copy of your resume, it's not going to allow you to edit it. It's just uploading a copy so that you have a copy on file. And if you were interested in applying to other jobs on the platform, then they would also be able to see the resume that you've uploaded. So once you get approval. So you can upload a copy just to save it there and have it uploaded to the platform, but it won't let you edit it. If you do start from scratch, however, it'll give you editing access. If you do choose to start a resume here, you can simply copy and paste from the one that you have already, or you can start a whole fresh new resume and you can actually download it as a Word or PDF file. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack for a second. Once you log into the platform, you'll click add a resume and then you'll click resume builder. So when you first log in and you click resume, it's going to default to the documents tab, but you'll go ahead and scroll over and click in the middle where it says resume builder. Then you'll go ahead and just click create a new resume. Once you've logged in there, it will give you a great tool to choose the layout for your resume, and essentially it's fill in the blank from there. It's going to walk you through the different sections. You can rename the section. So you see here it says objective. If you want it to say summary, you can edit the word objective, retype it as summary, and it'll actually retitle the heading as summary. So you're able to play with any of the wording or text phrases, however you want to change the titles of those different sections or add a section, you can do so. If you see here where it says number 2, customize sections, it will allow you to add an extra section or take out a section. As I mentioned before, at least you want to have on your resume, you want to have your contact information, your experience, your education, and your skills. Not necessarily in that order, with the exception of your contact info, that should always be at the top, but everything else you can really order how you see fit. Some folks with more years of experience do choose to have a summary and their skills at the top. Other folks like to move it around so their education is at the top, especially if you're currently still in school. It's actually more advisable for you to put your education at the top so we can see your anticipated graduation date. Other than that, again, it's totally up to you. Again, please schedule an appointment if you'd like to have someone else take a second look at your resume, which we strongly advise. Once you have filled out the different areas of the builder, then you'll go ahead and click Save and Continue. At that point, you have 2 options. You can simply download a copy for your own records, or you can submit for review. If you choose to submit for review, we will reach out to you to book a one-on-one appointment to have someone look over the resume with you. So just keep in mind, you can either work on it and download a copy. Maybe you want to make some edits, then you can always go back in and keep editing. So it's your resume builder. Even if you submit for review, you're still able to edit. So you can always go back and make any kind of changes that you want. You can have more than one resume generated at a time. So if you wanted to tailor your resume to a specific job, you just create a new sample, a new template, and then you just fill out that one. So it's okay to have multiple versions created in the resume builder. Any questions? Okay, so before we recap, we have some additional questions for you all. We just want to make sure we hit some important points. Remember that the main purpose of your resume is to land an interview and give a good first impression of you. Tailor your resume for the job you're applying for. Required resume elements include the contact info, education, work experience, and skills. Never falsify information on your resume. Be consistent with your format and avoid typos and grammatical errors. So it's always good to have a second pair of eyes. If it's not the Career Center or Climate Center, then maybe it's a friend that you trust that's been working for a long time, or maybe it's a professor that you trust. As long as someone else is reviewing for at least typos, we recommend at least that. If not, please connect with the Career Center. Great, and here's our information. If you're interested in the Climate Summer internship, of course, you can always reach out to the Climate Center as well. We have interns who are dually working out of the Career Center and the Climate Center, so they assist with both departments and are more than happy to help you out. Okay, and so now as we wrap up, we're going to pause the recording and then just make room and time for you all to troubleshoot the resume builder on your own if you'd like, and then ask any additional questions to support you. So right now, I'll go ahead and end the recording, and please stick around for any additional questions.
Yes, hello, I have a question.
One moment. I'm not quite sure that the recording has ended.
Oh, do you want me to stop it?
If you could see it, I
Okay.
kind of lost the button there. Thank you.